The COVID-19 infection rate in Texas cities continues to grow daily. Here are the look at the latest numbers. This is a graph that shows the last 5 days of new cases in the state. Today's new cases hit 9,879. 197 people died in the state today from the virus. That is a new record. We've been seeing high numbers of cases and deaths for over a month now. Some say that Governor Abbott started reopening Texas too soon, and that contributed to the uptick in these numbers. Well, here to talk more about this is Travis County GOP Chairman Matt Mackowiak and Glenn Smith from Progress, Texas. Glenn, let me begin with you. A new Quinnipiac UT poll says Texans are now split on whether or not Governor Abbott is doing a good job handling the COVID-19 pandemic. The poll also found 52% of Texans feel Governor Abbott opened and reopened the state too quickly. How do you think the governor's handling the pandemic?
Well, I wish, like all of us wish, that Governor Abbott had succeeded, but he's failed miserably, and the failure is obvious in the numbers. And note how those graphs match one another. Abbott's numbers are falling at about the same rate that deaths, hospitalizations, and cases are rising, and it's all on his hands. I think he decided to please President Trump rather than save the lives of Texas. It is a failure we've not seen from a Texas governor in my lifetime. I'm sad to see it. I wish he had succeeded, but he's failed, and it's a great tragedy for our state.
Okay. Matt Mackowiak, how do you think the governor has fared during all this?
Well, look, there's no question that the numbers are concerning in Texas right now. It's hard to look at any one individual day with confidence because it depends a lot on testing and when tests come back. Sometimes they're taking 10 days to come back. And of course, deaths are building up over time. You don't just get the disease and die. You could have it for weeks or months and die. So the fact that it was higher today doesn't mean it will be higher tomorrow. There are a number of reasons why these numbers have gone up. I do think the reopening is part of that. And I think the governor has said he knew that the risk would increase if we did reopen. But he's tried to balance public health and saving our economy at the same time. And getting that balance right is really impossible. It's a sliding scale, and you have to do the very best you can with the information you have. The reopening is only one of the reasons. Increased testing is, yes, another part of the reason. I do think young people going to bars and the reopening of bars is a big part of it. Testing our nursing homes and our prisons the way we have is part of it. And yes, the racial justice protest, which had a large number of people together in close quarters several weeks ago, is part of it. All those things have come together to create the situation we're in right now.
Okay. You know, we want to get to another part of this poll. It talked about the presidential race as well. It has Biden over Trump by 1%. It was the other way around in early June. Glenn, could Biden take Texas in November?
Oh, anything's possible in November. Of course he could, because of Trump's collapsing numbers. Because I mentioned Abbott's failures, Trump's failures are global and nationwide, and everybody knows it. One thing about Republicans, they tend to hide the consequences of their actions. Like tax cuts will pay for themselves, but that never happens. But it's years before people figure it out. Now we're in real time. A natural disaster of a pandemic has hit us in Texas and the country. And the Republican leadership can't hide from the consequences of their failures. And yes, that could lead to a Biden victory in Texas in November. Absolutely.
Matt Mackowiak, you know, I know that you're skeptical about a lot of these polls. This latest one, change your mind at all, or you still say no?
No, and honestly, it's a shame to see the methodology inside Quinnipiac, because I used to think they were a pretty good pollster. But testing registered voters at this point, with 4 months to go, doesn't tell you very much. It doesn't capture the intensity gap that Trump has in his favor. Is Trump behind? Yes, he's behind nationally. Is he behind in Texas? I don't believe so. Is the race closer in Texas now than it should be and closer than it will be? Yes. Is it possible? In one of 100 scenarios that Biden could win Texas in November? Yes, it's possible. I do think Trump will win Texas. I think he'll win by 6 to 8%. I think his numbers are going to improve in September when we move from registered voters to likely voters. I think he's hit bottom and he's come back up. Yesterday's press conference, I think, was a shift in tone. He's being much more sober and realistic about where we are in coronavirus, taking some responsibility and talking about the path forward, and I think that's going to help.